This is FYI on your TV, brought to you by Hometown News. I'm Kathy Botham. I have got Glen Russell with me all the way from Ottawa. Thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You have a lovely show coming up in the Red Brick School in Elgin coming up, and it's all about a former photographer, Clifford Pennock. What an amazing history the man has, and you're going to be doing a presentation on him.
Uh, yes, we have an exhibit opening on the 1st of July, running through the summer on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, 10 till 3. And we have about 126 large format, colorized, enhanced pictures, the best of Pennock's pictures on display. And it's organized into 9 sections, a section to meet Clifford Pennock himself, a section on group portraits, children's, sport fishing, towns and villages, and quite a few different categories of pictures all organized in a huge grid that's like I think 18 feet long and 4 feet wide, and all the pictures are all the way around it and on the walls. And so it's quite a big installation.
And to speak about Clifford Pennock as an individual as well, too, he was a barber. He owned a general store. He was a woods craftsman, and he participated in the local theater as well. And then he became a photographer.
That's right. I think he started out as a photographer at a young age, because one of his earliest pictures, we think, is around 1885, based on the clothing. We know we have an officially dated picture that was dated 1895, but at that time, he was born in 1880. He would have been like a teenager, and yet he's doing this remarkable work. And then that just continued on till about 1915 to 1920. But as you mentioned, in parallel, he was all these other things. And I think eventually he got so busy that photography started to diminish. And then around 1915, 1920, photography was everywhere, maybe not so special. So we don't quite know why he stopped, because we don't seem to have anything from the 30s and the 40s, and he died in 1945. But that could be some of the reasons.
I think it's amazing when I see his work, and what a talented individual as well, too, because photography isn't art, but just the photography equipment back then, too, was so elaborate. He did wonderful jobs with his photography.
Yeah, and we think he started out with big glass plate cameras, so that's sort of, very large negatives, difficult to use, long exposure times. Then he would have graduated to smaller cameras, because we have some shots where he's actually reflected in a mirror, and his camera is more foldable, more about this size. So he ran the range of cameras, but he also did, we call it darkroom magic. He did multiple exposures in the darkroom where he would have people shaking hands with themselves, or a little boy going through a barrel on one end and coming out the other, all in the same picture. And now that's pretty routine these days, but in those days, that would have been magical and really astounding. And so he did that kind of work as well.
And you're doing some of what you call darkroom magic, but we don't have to be in a darkroom anymore. And you've helped his pictures be more elaborate and be more focused, that sort of thing too. You've helped his photography as well.
Yes. So the title of the exhibit is Clifford Pennock Remastered: A New Lens on South Crosby. And we really wanted to emphasize the remastered part. So we used artificial intelligence tools, digital tools, to increase the size of the images without pixelating them. So most of our images are 2 feet wide, and some are 3 or 4 feet tall. Yet we started with tiny, small original images. And just in the last couple of years, the resizing tools have gotten so good that we can actually do that. And then when we do that, we take the opportunity then to colorize the images. Again, we use artificial intelligence tools to do that, and they are aware that some of these images or most of the images are heritage images. And so tools are smart enough to use a very muted palette, soft, dark colors, which would have been typical of the time. So it's not bright Technicolor, but it's very appropriate for the time. And then when you add the color, you get kind of a depth, a psychological depth. It's almost like you can see into the scene. So between the large format and the color and the enhancements we've done to the images, it's very, very impactful. And we really think you are looking through a brand new lens deep into the past, almost as if you were beside him when he took the picture.
And I mean, this exhibit is going to teach us about Clifford Pennock himself. It's going to teach us about photography, and it's going to teach us a
Yeah.
history of the area as well, too. Like you mentioned, the heritage.
Yes, there's a lot of history around the Opinicon. Pennock was the resident barber and photographer at the Opinicon. So he caught a lot of 1910, 1915 life around that time. Um, and you get to see how people spent their times. You get to see at the resort, the Opinicon Resort, life was good. People were well off, and that shows. But in the countryside, you see that people had, not an easy existence. I was going to say a hard existence. Maybe that's too strong, but life was demanding, and yet he captures that. Plus, also, there's a certain heroicism or a certain nobility in the everyday people trying to do their best in life, and that all that range of the wealthy, the average, the not so wealthy, that all comes through.
Okay, now how did you get involved with the Elgin Area Heritage Society?
Well, it started in 2020. I did a 2 foot by 3 foot color storyboard for St. Mary's Anglican Church in Newborough, celebrating their 170th anniversary. And that turned out really well, and that caught the eye of one of the principals in the society, Diane Haskins. So she asked if I would work with them to do several more storyboards in Newborough and in Elgin, and I've been doing that kind of work with them for the last 4 years. But in doing that work, we started to come across Pennock's images. Um, the Newborough storyboard needed a big keystone image around which we were going to put small photographs, and we came across the Newborough Canning Factory shot by Pennock in 1902. And that was a compelling image, but the copy we had was small, fairly low res, kind of degraded, and so we kept rejecting it. But I needed it. I needed something, so it was so strong composition-wise. It kept coming back. So finally, we put a lot of effort into it, and we got a masterpiece out of it. And then we started looking for more Pennocks, and we worked with Parks Canada and found their stash. They gave us about 900 images. So today we have about 1,433 or 44 Pennock images, and then we've taken the best of those and put them in the exhibit.
And how many are going to be in the exhibit?
About 126.
Okay.
The other interesting thing about the exhibit is we are very upfront. We know that altering historic photos is controversial. So we're upfront that you're going to see Clifford Pennock remastered. And to help that process, we have displays that show the kind of changes we were making to pictures. So people have a full disclosure of what we've been doing. And the final important thing is we have a catalog of all the originals that we've used in the exhibit. And these are the originals untouched as they are. So people can have a direct look with, oh, this was the original. This is what they've done to the image. And I think you will see that in almost every case, it's positive and it's beneficial. But if you really want to see the original, we have that for you, and nothing is hidden.
And I mean, the bottom line when you're remastering somebody's work like this too is, would he have liked you to have done this? And I think he would.
I think he would. I think we often marvel at he was so successful, but yet probably he had no idea what would have been happening to his work when he passed away, obviously. And I'm sure he knew he was good, he was popular, but I don't think he saw his own genius. And we did through the benefit of time and technology. And I think he would just be tickle pink if he walked into that room and saw what is there.
I agree. I agree. So the dates again and where people can go?
Okay, so there's the Red Brick School in Elgin. It's on Halliday Street, and there'll be signs on the weekend when it's open pointing you to the school. And then it's open starting on the long weekend in July, so the Saturday and Sunday, and then every Saturday and Sunday throughout the summer until Labor Day weekend, and it'll be open on Labor Day weekend. And as of now, that will be the extent of it, and it's open from 10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. So, and you can check all this out if you go to the Elgin Area Heritage Society, EAHS.ca. It'll get you right into our video, the exhibit itself, and lots of information.
Well, I appreciate your time putting this exhibit together, and I appreciate your time with us today on FYI too. So thank you for joining us today. I have Glen
Well, it's
Russell with
great.
me, and you've got the exhibit coming up, and it's called A New Lens on South Crosby.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for having me. We really appreciate your exposure.
Thank you very much.